Hey everybody, Josh Sigurdson of World Alternative Media here, and we are seeing riots throughout the United States, specifically in California right now, and there are major reasons for this. Of course, it's manufactured. However, there are those that have been paid to protest, agents, if you will. There are those that are just lunatic leftists, unhinged beyond recognition. And there are those that are realistically and honestly just not in favor of people getting rounded up by the federal government and shipped off to El Salvadorian prisons. So, of course, there are multiple angles to this, but one thing is clear: it's a psyop to bring in a technocratic system, which of course is a very successful way to bring in emergency orders, force us on our knees, because both sides will agree with authoritarianism if it fits their side, their angle. And this is something we're witnessing as Trump orders National Guard to quell California riots. And there's so much more to this right now. This is without a doubt an intelligence operation. And of course, all roads do lead to Rome. So what we're witnessing here is the move towards of course, the same system as the left pushes with the climate lobby, the right pushes with the biometrics, attempts. And of course, what we're going to see is the control of humanity under this technocratic umbrella. So we're going to go into what exactly is going on in California right now, specifically, and of course, who benefits from it. Of course, there are a lot of different angles that people are putting out there. We also have to know the history that led to this and why, they are doing this right as they create this massive database system through Palantir. We're going to go into that and more, my friends. Before we do, I urge you to check those links below and get prepared today. This is more important than ever before to actually get stocked up for yourself and your family. Go to heavensharvest.com for long-term storable foods that are non-GMO. There's organic kits, heirloom seeds, water filtration and storage, and books on how to get started. Use code WHAM, W-A-M, and you'll get 5% off as well as free shipping on your order. So I highly recommend people get on this today. Don't wait until it's too late. This is the currency of the future for you. And if it isn't, then the currency will be compliance and mRNA food rations. So get on this today. Also check out whambeef.com, WAMBEEF.com for 10 plus year shelf life freeze-dried steak, 12 servings per bag. When you use code WHAMBEEF, WAMBEEF, all one word, you will get 20% off on your order. It's an amazing deal. And you could also get freeze-dried chicken and freeze-dried ground beef there. So there are options. Stock up. Guaranteed no mRNA jabs, no lab-grown meat, all American beef that's 100% natural. This is your opportunity to get on this today. Whambeef.com, code WHAMBEEF. This is all about self-sustainability. By the way, if you guys haven't yet, if you're watching on YouTube, since we got our YouTube channel back, make sure to not watch on there and go over and watch us on BitChute and Rumble at World Alternative Media. And then hit the like button there, share on social media, hit the notification bell, because that is how we will continue to stay alive once they inevitably shut us off of YouTube again. Anyway, let's get into this. So Trump orders National Guard to quell California riots. Tear gas flies and arrests mount as protesters clash with U.S. immigration officers in Los Angeles. Now, 2,000 National Guardsmen were deployed, and they're calling in the military, basically saying this is an act of terrorism, an act of war, an act of insurrection. We witness this on both sides. There is a history that led to what we're seeing today with the riots in California. And of course, it's manufactured, but we also have to understand there's truth to every lie. And we have to, try and diagnose what that means. Newsom sues Trump over National Guard deployment as media calls LA riots peaceful, mostly peaceful protests. They're demoralizing society. A major part of what we're seeing today is just the vast demoralization of society. They know that what they're saying is crazy. They know it's distressing. They know people think it's crazy, and they know people actually believe it. And you get that, and you get a recipe for disaster. As Orwell says, you have to collapse the civilization from within before you can bring in that authoritarianism. I wrote on X at World Alt Media. Make sure to go follow us there if you haven't yet already. Last night I wrote, police states are bad. Manufactured riots that lead to police states are bad. Forcing people into a social credit-based ration system using emergency orders due to manufactured riots leading to a police state is bad. It should go without saying, but what we're seeing right now is totally manufactured, and they all lead to, it's like, I'm seeing people on the right suddenly support police states and full militarism and say, yeah, but look at what's happening. And it's like, yeah, the government is creating that problem, then coming in as a solution to normalize us to this authoritarianism. I don't know why people are missing this. And then people are saying, well, they have the right to protest the deportations. I'm like, absolutely they do. They have a right to protest Palestine with the genocide that's happening over there. We are seeing many things that are bubbling up right now, and they're trying to classify it as left versus right when it's really not. That's a paradigm. It always is. But alas, what we're seeing with Mexico, which I live in, by the way, I live in Mexico. I'm currently recording this video in Mexico, is far different than people understand. It's a CIA created crisis that, of course, most Mexicans have nothing to do with. Mexico is one of the most family oriented, more conservative societies that you'll find anywhere. Christian values, all that kind of stuff that people on the right claim they like. And of course, people on the left can't stand, but they don't actually understand. Most of the, if we're going to go by the paradigm, most of the left that have been to Mexico go to all inclusive resorts and don't actually see Mexico for themselves. I know this because every tourist I talk to, and I talk to countless tourists all the time walking around here in Puerto Vallarta, Mexico, the amount of people I talk to that are awake are almost always, these people on the right that are here walking around the streets. You almost never bump into leftists here unless you go to a resort, which I don't really frequent very often. If maybe 3 times in the last 5 years, I've checked one out. Not staying there overnight, of course, because that's way beyond my pay grade. But that is kind of the stereotype I've come up with here, what I've seen. And as far as Mexicans go, you mention anything that it seems crazy to the average American or Canadian that isn't awake, they'll go, yeah, that's probably true. Hey, weather modification leading to that hurricane that happened in Acapulco or Puerto Vallarta a couple years ago. Yeah, it's probably, and then they're showing me images of the sky, the trails, they're showing me documents, they're showing me all this kind of stuff. People are very open to wake up here. And again, when they talk about what's happening in the United States, okay, the CIA has been shipping guns and arming and funding cartels in Mexico for decades and decades and decades. We know this. So Iran-Contra is just one example of what we saw, but Operation Fast and Furious, there's many others. Arming and funding these cartels, and then opening the border to them coming in and then shipping those drugs to people while, things like fentanyl are affecting Americans. Very few people are getting fentanyl overdoses in Mexico because, first of all, why would the cartel give it to their own people? Second, it's being shipped in from China by the U.S. government to around the Juarez area and then shipped over the border. It is not something that's just traveling all over Mexico. It is around, but very rare. And of course, the whole thing is absurd because now you have the calls for military raids on Mexico, which these riots are just heating up. And that leads to a mass migration. Imagine that, creating an Iraq in Mexico, which is bordered with the United States. What do you think is going to happen? And of course, leads to false flag attacks, so-called terrorism, and all these different things. And it'll be a tidal wave and a money sink and, of course, a cultural disaster, which, of course, again, you arm and fund people, then you try to destroy their country for being independent, by the way, and not being part of the modern technocratic world, though they're pushing it. And then you come in as a so-called solution and say, we're going to save Mexico by going after the cartels, even though if you want to know the true cartels, it's a government. And the most evil that we see is within the government. They're going to cause mass chaos and mass violence, which is not happening to the average person. Most of the violence in Mexico is cartel and cartel. Okay, now move on. They say, Iran and Russia and China are planting IEDs at the border of the United States. Again, a false flag. I've been talking about this for years, saying that they would do this. And now there's headlines out there saying just that. They are creating that warlike scenario on the border to keep people always in fear from every angle. And of course, then you have the people going into the United States. Yes, there are a lot of examples of horrible migrants that are going in and killing people and raping people. Obviously, that's true. However, statistically, it's really not. I mean, when you actually look, I'm not in favor of a mass migration. That is all manufactured. I will say, though, that they're creating that manufactured crisis in order to create that cultural clash, which is just so silly, and ignoring the fact that Mexico is one of the most conservative, most family-oriented countries left on earth. you go and look at the statistics and you will find that the average person born in the United States per capita has like orders of magnitude higher likelihood of committing a violent crime. Most people that are coming to Mexico illegally are just like, hey, I just need to get out of Mexico, or I'm escaping Venezuela, or I'm escaping these places, and I just want to, make a life for myself. And I can kind of understand that as someone that got banned from the United States over a ridiculous rule in Arizona, which was the zero tolerance rule over alcohol when it comes to driving, which, by the way, I would never drink and drive and go crazy and do any of that. But you in Arizona, you can get a double felony, usually a felony, but often a double felony, for simply brushing your teeth and driving. If you allegedly having one drink and driving, it's insane, way under the limit. That is the kind of thing that we see, which is, of course, very anti-libertarian, very anti-conservative, but of course is promoted because the government, no one ever actually focuses on the size of the state and how much is growing and turning into a tumor. They focus on their little issues and they play them against each other, and then everyone ends up in one big culture clash, which allows society to collapse and allows them to come in with their restrictions, because no one's consistent anymore in politics. They never were, because politics is a paradigm. So that was a long rant to explain some of the context here. With that said, most of the protesters are lunatics that are causing fires, and they're being paid off by George Soros' Open Society Foundation, just like the right protests are being paid off by Palantir. ICE protesters are throwing tear gas canisters back at the police, and somehow they've acquired leaf blowers to blow the tear gas back at police officers and away from rioters. You're telling me these aren't professional protesters with training and planning? Look up, or lock up Democrats, says Wall Street Apes. Now, see, again, getting into the politics rather than the root issue. The state is an evil entity meant to cause chaos, so that you look to the state as a solution to stop chaos. It is a paradigm. If there's ever a proper definition for paradigm, I think collectivism is a great way of putting it. So yeah, they got leaf blowers. they've got leaf blowers at these riots here, and they all are the same brand, so that should concern people. It's like they all have, a lot of people have the same shoes on. Again, Dan Dix of Press for Truth, who I just stayed with in Squamish, British Columbia, who's currently at Bilderberg trying to report on that. Excuse me. He had recently reported on the fact, he reported years ago in his movie Into the Fire, which you can now find once again on YouTube, because he was brought back weirdly enough as well. I don't trust it. Keep on the alternative platforms. But he showed these police issued boots on these protesters. Now they call them Antifa. There's also, of course, Black Bloc previously. I am quite sure what we're seeing is manufactured with some idiots that play along, and then some people in the background that are super peaceful that are like, what the fuck is going on? Which is typical. Now, this is where, like, Elijah Schaefer, I actually like a lot of what he says on X, but he says, oh, well, this is just like Mexicans everywhere they go. They turn places into dog shit. Well, it's the government housing, and the promotion of mass migration in certain areas that attack people, just like the CIA used people like Freeway Rick Ross, who we've interviewed before back in 2019 or 2020. I can't remember, beginning of the year. Then like they paid him, they used him to run drugs from Nicaragua through the CIA into Black neighborhoods and specifically target Black people with crack. So, of course, that is manufactured as well. You have to actually understand what Mexico is like in Mexico when you're not, in a resort or, in your little bubble. Hate to say it again, 5 years living here. It's not what the people on the right or the left believe. It's complete nonsense. It's if the left knew that most Mexicans were very conservative, they wouldn't want Mexicans in their country, would they? They certainly don't want Russians in their country. Okay, so here we have Wall Street Mav on X. Democrats like Mayor Karen Bass in LA have failed to protect their citizens. Mobs are destroying LA, attacking federal agents, and destroying property. The local government is MIA. Well, this is, again, by design. Trump says if Governor Gavin Newsom of California and Mayor Karen Bass of Los Angeles can't do their jobs when everyone knows they can't, then the federal government will step in and solve the problem. Riots and looters, the way it should be solved. Well, the way that it's being seen from this angle is about arresting Gavin Newsom. This is the same thing that the left did with Trump, calling for his arrest. He actually did get arrested. It was insane. And that was part of the demoralization and the collapse of civilization. And the witch hunt over January 6th, which was a complete scam and a federal government created crisis. But President Trump said he would support arresting California Governor Gavin Newsom after Newsom dared the White House border czar to do so amid a clash over protests in Los Angeles that center on immigration. Why Trump can't just arrest Newsom if he wants to, says Mario Nawfal. Despite the online theatrics, the president of the United States does not have the power to arrest a sitting governor or anyone else for that matter. Arrests in the U.S. require law enforcement action based on probable cause and typically a warrant approved by a judicial system. Even if Newsom broke the law, which is not established, that's a job for prosecutors and courts. As much as I can't stand Newsom, I mean, this is just people getting emotional politically, and it leads to a lot of problems down the line that lead to, well, again, us being put in chains. And by the way, the source of that is the U.S. Constitution, Separation of Power 101. Newsom to Trump, arresting me equals authoritarianism. The president of the United States just called for the arrest of a sitting governor. This is a day I hoped I would never see in America. I don't care if you're a Democrat or a Republican. This is a line we cannot cross as a nation. This is an unmistakable step towards authoritarianism, says Gavin Newsom. And again, I can't stand him, but it's true. This is the rhetoric around this screams authoritarianism, screams the idea of creating that thing on both sides to give every side the excuse to hate the other and continue the clashes. This is clearly divide and conquer. And I mean, it makes sense because, you know, Israel owns the left and the right. So it's just this Mossad tactic of playing everyone against each other. It's what they do. Alex Jones posted, police remove arrest protesters inside Trump Tower in New York City. So we're seeing people go into Trump Tower, which has a lot of security. I've been there multiple times. And then this, which is kind of ironic, Waymo pulls out of downtown LA after protesters torch 5 self-driving cars. So again, this is typical because Waymo, again, these self-driving cars are a part of the technocratic agenda, the Internet of Things, if you will, and a part of where we're heading with these very riots. Full surveillance of everything all day, every day, everywhere on the streets. And the push towards 15-minute cities, which if you haven't yet seen it, I did a video on the ground while they are unrolling this in Kelowna, British Columbia recently when I was resetting my visa. So I urge people to check out my video warning 15-minute cities are here. But nonetheless, this is the epitome of irony here when you have these Waymo cars getting set on fire. And then they pull them out of the area, which they'll be back. And of course, this is all under all these riots are under the guise of bringing in an Internet of Things thing. By the way, Trump is bringing mass biometrics and internet surveillance on migrants. And in some cases, if you criticize Israel, people are getting deported out of their country, even with legal paperwork, by the way. The Hill says Los Angeles businesses looted overnight. Anti-ICE protests expected to continue Monday. There's a lot of riots. Fiery, but mostly peaceful. In deploying National Guard, Trump critics see run around of Insurrection Act. The rhetoric from the left is so ridiculous that it makes the right seem 100% legit, but they're not. And I know I'm going to lose a lot of subscribers over this video. I don't care. I always do. I'll always stay honest with you guys. I'm being consistent. This is a manufactured crisis, and whether Trump knows that he's involved in it or not, he is involved in it because they're utilizing the rhetoric on the right as well to bring in a mass surveillance system. Stu Peters posted, it looks like people are finally getting tired of watching a genocide play out on live TV. This is part of the agenda, though. Also, Awesome Jew on X wrote multiple anti-Semitic attacks rocked the predominantly Orthodox Jewish community on the 5 towns in Long Island early this morning around 3 a.m. With Avi's auto repair shop torch, window smash at ASAP Restoration, and banner bearing the message 50,000 dead Gazan kids hung in the gate of the Israel Chesser Center. Look, a lot of these centers are very pro-Israel, and I don't see how it's a hate crime to put up a sign, a fabric sign. Oh, it's a hate crime. Well, what's his name? Randy Fine, who's part of the Trump administration now, wants to throw people in prison for mandatory minimum 5 years for doing that very thing, just putting up a sign saying 50,000 dead Gazan kids. Again, this is a divide and conquer method. So we are seeing that false flag season heat up. We're seeing riot season begin once again, just in time for summer, my friends, when the kids are off school and some people are off school out of university as they're getting bankrupted for liberal arts major. We're seeing this, which is barely being reported, but as per usual, a part of the disintegration of civilization. White man brutally attacked on the train by 3 black youth in Chicago, and nobody there did anything to help him. Yes, people are docile. There is vast racism coming from the black community. Not when I say that, I mean those that have been brainwashed among the black community into supporting violence and this culture of racism against white people, which is a real thing for sure. It's absolutely insane. And we're seeing those videos every single day. But again, that is part of the demoralization and destruction of civilization. Violent evil. Migrant arrested ahead of LA riots shot up a high school graduation party. So obviously, there's a lot of people that are being deported that are horrible, horrible people that cause problems. And by the way, we see the same thing in Mexico. They deport a bunch of people as well for the same kind of things. And there are a bunch of commies running this, university students, academic majors that are complete morons, university professors, and of course, again, George Soros and the Open Society Foundation. But who does it benefit overall? It's not Trump or Kamala. It's not the left. It's not the right. It is collectivism and statism. Trump taps Palantir to create master database on every American. Trump's dystopian plan is already underway. Palantir, of course, meeting with Trump with the Saudi crown prince in Saudi Arabia recently, as well as the leader of Qatar, and of course, Jolani, the al-Qaeda proxy CIA leader in Syria that took over for Assad. From Assad, I should say, with Israel's help. I mean, Palantir has been a major player in this as they work with BlackRock as well, and they work with the Trump administration as they take over the Panama Canal and try to take over all shipping. The Patriot Voice wrote on X, and I've been liking what he's been saying lately a lot. Talked with him briefly. He says, if I wanted to get the public on board with the Palantir police state nightmare, I would stage as many false flags as it takes to show you why my totalitarian AI surveillance technology is a good thing for public safety and how it quells terrorism. I'd start and facilitate many riots with illegal immigrants, bring in ICE, National Guard, and SWAT teams, deploying robot dogs using Palantir facial recognition tech to control the situation and show you why this is necessary to stop it. I would have the public at large eating out of my hand and begging for their own surveillance and enslavement in exchange for a safer world. I would convince you that this is normal and force you to accept it while monitoring your every move and eviscerating what's left of your civil liberties. Problem, reaction, solution. Have you heard of the Hegelian dialectic every single time? And he's right. That is where we're going. That is the move. They want you on food rations. They want you on grid rations. They will do false flag cyber attacks so that they can control what you see on the internet. Obama came up with the internet ID system in the first place. Now Trump and the state of Florida are pushing it really hardcore under the guise of stopping people from watching porn. I mean, it's just... They claim they're coming back up against the demoralization of society to stop it, but the reality is it's entrapment. In that technocratic system, Elon Musk is a major part of it, obviously. Chips in your brain attached to a Pentagon-funded mesh network. What we're witnessing here is problem, reaction, solution, repeat, the Hegelian dialectic, and the move into that complete surveillance system, which means that you are on food rations, that you are eating poisonous foods that they give to you in a Logan's Run type society. I mean, they're already doing... New York is quietly rolling out pre-crime surveillance tech. Bad posture, sweaty palms, or talking to yourself can now qualify as precursors to crime on your morning commute. This is what I started to see in Oxford, UK a couple years ago when I was reporting on 15-minute cities there. And if you only watched on YouTube and never followed us on Rumble or BitChute, you missed a lot, like 30 countries and massive reports. But anyway, I've been talking about this for a while, and I've been warning about this, but I mean, our most recent videos, Trump's New World Order. I also have one called Elon Musk's New World Order that I urge you to check out. Skynet is here. And then, of course, Trump creates a surveillance database, as well as the recent 15-minute cities are here video. I've been reporting on this for a while, and it's all coming true. People can call me black-pilled or negative, whatever they want. A fearmonger. Look, when I tell the truth, people call me black-pilled, negative, or a fearmonger. I'm just consistent in the truth. The truth isn't always positive. Obviously, these days, it's not always going to be positive. And then when I try to give solutions, people call me a shill. There's literally no winning in this realm here when I'm trying to just help people. I've lost everything. I've lost 90% of my income since January alone in pushing back against both sides, which I've always done, but people are suddenly surprised. I did the same thing in 2016 election, talking about Trump, 2017, 2018, 2019, when he was bombing Iranian generals, like we saw with Soleimani in January 2020, when we are seeing this intelligence agency apparatus propped up, when we see Kash Patel and Dan Bongino lying, who I've spent time with Dan Bongino. He was always a nice guy. I don't know I know what's going on. When we see these psyops pushed onto society, when we see, for example, like Trump's first administration, he banned the tallying of drone bombs dropped, which would show that he was actually dropping more than Obama, and Obama had the all-time record for drone bombs dropped after Bush, and then Bush was in second place, and then Trump took over, and in his first administration dropped more bombs than Obama did in his first term, but everyone ignores it. Everyone ignores it. He deletes the database so we can't see it anymore, and then creates a database on all Americans while claiming to be against mass surveillance and spying. Are people not getting it yet? Presidents don't have power. They are simply puppets being controlled. I've been saying this for 19 years. I will continue to say this. I hope people get it. But anyway, the solution is not politics. The solution is not voting. When they say you're sitting on your hand for not voting, it's double think, because you are literally sitting on your hands when you vote, because you're waiting for someone else to do something to change the problem that you have. In fact, asking the very same thing that created the problem in the first place to solve the problem, which is like the definition of insanity, doing things over and over, the same thing over and over again, expecting different results. The solution is in your hands, because the basis of humanity is individualism. The basis of humanity is self-responsibility. The basis of humanity is freedom. Those things are all synonymous. And that comes down to you going out and saving yourself from this technocratic system that's being built. Save yourself from this New World Order that is clearly being built around us. For that reason, that's why I shout from mountaintops about these solutions, because I hope to God that people actually go out and do something about this, because this is how you avoid that ration system. This is how you avoid that CBDC digital ID system that's rolling out this year in Europe and the UK. And they just had the Stable Act and Genius Act passed in the United States, which brings it in through Tether, stable coins, KYC. I mean, this is the best thing you can possibly do. Use the world's first currency, food. Stock up on it. You're going to be paying 1,000 times more later for it with inflation. HeavensHarvest.com for long-term storable foods that are non-GMO. There's organic kits, heirloom seeds, water filtration and storage, and books on how to get started. Use code WHAM, W-A-M, and you'll get 5% off as well as free shipping on your order. Highly recommend people get on this today. Again, that is in the description of our videos, HeavensHarvest.com, code WHAM, W-A-M. You have organic meal buckets. If you have one already, get 3, get 6. Stock up so you're ready. This is about having solutions in your hands and not waiting for someone else to do it for you. Again, we have whambeef.com for 10 plus year shelf life, freeze-dried steaks, 12 servings per bag. There's freeze-dried chicken and freeze-dried ground beef as well. Use code Wham Beef, W-A-M-B-E-E-F, all one word, and you will get 20% off on your order. So stock up on that today. This is a no-brainer, my friends. Also, guaranteed no mRNA jabs, no lab-grown meat, all American beef that's 100% natural, so you don't have to wait in those Bill Gates ration lines down the road. And of course, avoid the CBDC system. Go to firstnationalbullion.com/schedule-consult/ and buy physical gold and silver today. Again, you have to use the exact link. It's in the description of our videos. Buy physical gold, silver, platinum, or palladium, hold it in your hands, put it in a vault, put it in an IRA outside of the traditional IRA system. Schedule an appointment with our friend Mark Gonzalez for a free consultation and a complimentary investors package. Just let him know in the comments of the form when you sign up that he found him at World Alternative Media, or Wham, W-A-M. It's a great solution. There's many out there. We have Wild Pastures. If you use our link, you'll get 20% off for life plus $15 off your first box of 100% grass-fed and finished beef, pasture-raised pork, pasture-raised chicken, and wild-caught seafood. No mRNA, GMOs, hormones, antibiotics, steroids, feedlots, pesticides, or chemicals of any kind. All raised on regenerative family farms in 48 U.S. states, delivered to your door and temperature controlled and customizable as you see fit. Of course, this helps your local farmers. It helps you save money, and it helps you save you from the forever chemicals and problems that you'll find on your local grocery store shelves. Again, another thing that's very much manufactured. So these are real world solutions to this chaos. We must be individualistic. We must prepare individually. We have www.livelongerformula.com/wham, where you could ditch your doctor today and work with Christian Yordanov, a longevity author and functional health practitioner who works with clients suffering from severe gastrointestinal ailments, toxicity, and debilitating chronic fatigue, as well as autoimmune and neurological conditions, skin disorders, hypothyroidism, insomnia, depression, and weight problems, plus much, much, much more. If you sign up through our link in the description, you will get instant access to his free masterclass, as well as a free metabolic function assessment, so you can work directly with him. So there's different ways around big pharma, etc. Like this. We have rncstore.com, Richardson Nutritional Center, your source for Laetrile online, made famous by G. Edward Griffin's book, World Without Cancer. Get your apricot seeds, Laetrile, amygdalin, and vitamin B17 there. Use code JOSH, J-O-S-H, and save money on your order. We can't post that link in the description on YouTube for obvious reasons, but nonetheless, check that out, and it's on most of these other sites. Finally, as we close this off, we could use your help, as always, because we're regularly bankrupted. Even we have the mainstream media and the mainstream alternative media coming after us, and all the alternative platforms, except for like BitChute and Brighteon. Those guys are awesome, but otherwise, most of them are just cracking down on us as well. So we appreciate any help we can get in your support. It goes a long way, my friends. So if you guys check it out, we have gogetfunding.com, Patreon, and Subscribestar. If you pledge $4.99 a month or more on Patreon or Subscribestar, you'll get exclusive content. So stay tuned for that. Same with on X at World Alt Media if you subscribe for $5 a month. Of course, we have a PayPal address, ancientwonderstelevision@gmail.com, and we have a Bitcoin address that you can scan on the screen right here, or you could check out in the description of our video. We have a Cointree link with a bunch of different cryptocurrencies that you could donate in if you please. And of course, we have a Teespring store with a bunch of merchandise. I appreciate everyone watching, my friends. Find us on Telegram, Rockfin, Band.video, BitChute, Odyssey, Rumble, and Brighteon at World Alternative Media. We're on Hive, Steemit, and Vigilante.tv at Josh Sigurdson. And on the bad guys, TikTok and Instagram, World Alternative Media, Twitter and Getter at World Alt Media, and all the major podcast platforms, except for Spotify, where we're still banned, though they let us back on YouTube. What's up with that? Anyway, hit that like button, share on social media, hit the notification bell, and hit subscribe if you have not yet already. And as always, my friends, live freely, live by example. This is Josh Sigurdson signing out from World Alternative Media. Find the truth, be the change.